What's going on, y'all? Sean here. In a recent video that I recorded, I was demonstrating a leg workout I was doing here at home, and one of the exercises I was doing was plyometric box jumps. Basically, just jumping up to a box of varying heights, 20 inches, 20 inches, 24 inches, and then 30 inches. And one of the things that I talked about was the potential for plyometrics to build muscle. And I said that plyometrics don't necessarily do very well at that. However, shortly after that, I was just looking up stuff out of curiosity, and I came across a study that suggested that plyometrics, such as box jumping, can actually increase muscle size. So I just kind of wanted to share some of what I found, in hopes that maybe it'll help you to consider plyometrics as essentially something to help you build muscle, even at 40 and beyond. So some of what I came across was that plyometric box jumping, or plyometric jumping in particular, can increase your muscle size. There's more of an effect in non-athletes versus athletes, which is probably just because of the there's more of a potential for adaptation, more of a need of adaptation, if that makes sense. So if you're an athlete and you're already very active, you're already doing a lot of exercise, then your muscles are probably going to need more of a stimulus to adapt than, say, the non-athlete who's just getting started, which would probably be the reason that plyometrics may induce more muscle growth in non-athletes versus athletes. Another thing that the study said is that more frequent weekly training with plyometrics has a greater muscle hypertrophy or muscle growth effect. So if you do it more often, then it'll have a more pronounced effect on building muscle. Let's see. So what are plyometrics? And the way that the study defined plyometrics is, it has to do with the stretch and shortening cycle of a muscle group. Basically, it's a rapid eccentric movement followed immediately by a rapid concentric movement. And just to kind of break that down in layman's terms, so say, for example, just to talk about a totally different exercise, because I think it's more clear. Say, for example, you're doing like bench press, or I even say push-ups. You have the lowering phase, the non-lifting phase. This is the eccentric phase where you're bearing a load. However, it's like a passive. It's a passive, not lifting, but it's just passively kind of like moving the weight through space or whatever. Then you have the concentric movement, which is where you intentionally lift or push the resistance. With your muscles contracting. Okay. So eccentric movement is like you're not contracting the muscles per se, but there is like a passive loading of the muscle group. Then you have concentric, which is where you're actually contracting the muscles to move the weight. So with plyometrics, you have an eccentric, a very rapid eccentric movement, followed by rapid concentric. So think about the box jumps. So what happens is, so you have the initial jump where you jump onto the box. So that's a very quick, concentric movement of, various leg muscles. Then if you notice, anytime I do box jumps, this is how I learned in high school, I drop down to the ground. And so there's a eccentric movement there. So I drop down to the ground, and when I hit the ground, my muscles are loaded, but it's in this eccentric phase. But I immediately kind of pop up and do a small jump after that. Okay, so that's where the kind of plyometricness really comes from. That part where you jump, you fall down, and then you immediately jump up. Now it would probably be even better if I had another box that I could immediately jump to. But I try to do like a slight jump after I jump down, and there's your plyometrics there. But apparently plyometrics generate a significantly higher amount of power from the muscle group, which is where some of that muscle building effect comes from. And the thing about plyometrics that makes them especially beneficial, potentially beneficial, is not only can they improve your muscle mass to some degree, but they can improve your strength, your power. If you're interested in running faster, they can improve your sprint speed, improve your balance, which of course, as we get older, that's very important, to kind of help to maintain and even increase your balance. They can improve your, let me stop there. Improving balance, of course, that's good for injury prevention. That's good for fall prevention. Okay. Like, like a lot of times people, as they get older, they might get more wobbly and unsteady. This helps to prevent that. And then plyometrics, because of that loading of the muscle, or loading on the body, can increase your bone mineral density too, which means to kind of protect against osteopenia and osteoporosis. Now, all that said, all this technical stuff said, I know one of the questions that a lot of you have, especially if you're 40 and over, and that question is, can I safely start plyometrics, plyometric box jumps? I understand the concern, but here's the thing that we do too often. A lot of times we kind of think, like, for example, you may look at me jumping on a box that's 30 inches tall and then dropping from that and be like, I could never do plyometrics. But don't start there. You may start on a stair that's like no more than 6 inches tall, if that, 3 inches. And so the key is start low, use that, and just build on that. Even if you think about like rope jumping can be somewhat plyometric, because if you think about it, you jump and then you immediately lower down concentrically on your calf muscles and jump back up very quickly, especially when you're doing it fast. So jumping rope is actually plyometric. But that's also a way that you can get yourself into plyometrics without having to jump some high height, and get a lot of these benefits. And then if you want to kind of like improve your ability to jump, you just go higher and higher. You may go from 3 inches to 6 inches, from 6 inches to a foot, from a foot to, a foot and a half, 18 inches, and so on and so forth. It's like, and then the only other thing I say though is make sure you stretch though. And that's something I still am improving in as far as being consistent in it. But especially with these type of moves where you're contracting your muscles and whatnot, you want to like periodically lengthen them as well, because that's going to help prevent against injury, help you to improve and maintain good posture, and so on and so forth. So the key, if you're concerned about hurting yourself with plyometrics, is just start small. You might be ridiculously small to you, but don't let what somebody else is doing here make you think that you can't do it at all. I can't stress that enough. All right. So that's all I have for this video. You can use plyometrics to build your leg muscles. Contrary to even what I thought, still resistance training is going to be king, talking about squats, deadlifts, and things where you bear weight, lunges, stuff like that. But also plyometrics as a part of your leg workout routine can build muscle, can improve your strength, can improve your speed, can help to improve your balance, and your aesthetics as well. So let me know what you think about this, and thank you for watching.